Yeah, hello everybody to another edition of the M365 FM podcast. And today I have my special guest Anitha Eswaran, and we're talking about mastering Dynamics 365 financial operations integrations, scalable pattern for modern enterprise architecture. Yeah, my guest Anita, she is an MVP and an MCT, and she worked as technical architect and is specialized in building complex, scalable ERP solutions. And yeah, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mirko. Thank you for hosting me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the Microsoft ecosystem and how you became specialized in dynamic 365 financial and operations integrations?
Yeah. So, as you already said, I am into this D365 FO for almost 20 years. So, it was called as Axapta when I started my career in 2006. So, with the blue screen where we enter the login details. So, this is how I started my career. And with this 20 years, like I specialize in designing the scalable, intelligent ERP solutions so that would help the organization modernize and transform. So my see now it is not only as a D365 finance and operations. So the recent journey is also with the AI, Copilot, and the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So I need to also focus on bringing the practical real-time AI adoption into my business applications, right? It is not anymore standalone. So I work extensively with the FO Copilot, then
Mhm.
Copilot Studio. So that helps the team to understand how to integrate the generative AI into their daily workflows and how to automate the process and unlock the new productivity patterns. So, one significant milestone in this journey is completing the AB 900 and the AB 731. So, these certifications they strengthened my foundations in the responsible AI, prompt engineering. How do we extend the Copilot extensibility, and all this. So this is they also shaped how I approach a solution design. So I can ensure in that case that every AI capability I build or the recommend is secure, scalable, and aligned with the business value. So alongside my technical work, I am also an active community contributor where I share my insights, writing articles, delivering sessions, then mentoring professionals who want to grow in D365 for AI and the modern enterprise architecture. So this is short about my journey.
Awesome. So I also can say all the links, find the people in the show notes from you. So it will be marketing. Um, yeah, for listeners like me who may be new in the space, who will you describe the modern D365 FO integrations landscape today?
Okay, so the Dynamics 365 finance and enterprise architecture is a complete ERP where you can come up with I mean, it is like complete ERP solution where you can implement help the organization to modernize and transform. For instance, me, I am from a technical background. So I'm as a technical architect, what I will do, I collaborate with my functional consultants. They they assess the feasibility with me, okay, and check whether it is technically feasible. When there is ask whether an extra additional customization, so I assess whether it is possible or not, and then in case of any integrations, I would tell them, hey, this is how the integration has to be done. This is how it will be fitting in our D365 FO. I tell them the pros and cons of that particular solution, and then we arrive at a design here. So this is how I picture the D365 FO enterprise architecture.
And yeah, you're more a technical woman. And what did you say are the biggest changes you have seen in the D65 FO integrations over the last few years?
Yes, good question. So I started my career as a developer. and then I am a technical architect now. So what has changed is, I mean, the every day we have an update in our FNO ecosystem. I mean, not only in the Dynamics ecosystem, it is across. So I need to learn myself, update myself, and then I have a team under me. I need to guide them. And then, hey, this is what is the perfect for a performance scalability, and you should not do this. And then I need to keep myself updated to tell them, hey, this is not the right way you should be doing, and this is this way you can give a try. I need to train them in such a way they can work without my assistance in the next assignment. So this is how my task begins. And on top of that, the challenge what I face is, so when I started with AX3 Axapta 3.0, the debugging was very easy. You finish your code, compile, and you will be immediately see your result. But in case of D365 FO, so you have a cloud hosted VMs and you compile your code. Then it takes some time for the AOS to come up, and then maybe it will take for 4 or 5 minutes to come up. And then I need to then again test my solution whether it is properly working or not. So the time I am spending in delivering the solution is little more. I mean, here it is little more time consuming when compared to the earlier version. So this is one of the challenges even I am having, and even my team is also having. So at times, this building and compilation takes more time. That is what we feel here.
Okay, and for what companies is this product, yeah, right? Or I think it's a little, it's a where when I look at it, it's looks really complicated.
It is not complicated, but maybe for the beginners, until you get some grip, it seems to be complicated. But when you get into the process, the ERP, right? It is mainly designed by Microsoft. It is for mainly for scalable, and you can, I mean, what do you say? It you can think how scalable it is and how you need to handle it cautiously. That you need to advise the team, hey, this is the perfect one, this is not the right one, otherwise your system will collapse. So you need to get a grip. So that is where the solution architect and the technical architect plays a role. So maybe for beginners, it might little complex. But since I am in this Dynamics 365 FO world for almost 20 years, I know where and how to customize it. That is where I stand.
And yeah, let us think as company or as begin I start a new project. What integration mistakes see you often or happened often?
Um, so the integration mistakes. One is we have few things called as the volume. So see, anybody can do the integration. Anybody can suggest you can do like this way or that way. But there are few factors which you need to assess before designing the solution for your integration. One is volume. So you need to understand what volume your current process is going to give it to you. For instance, if it is for more than 10,000 per 5 minutes, then you need to design it as an asynchronous. If it is less than 1,000, then you need to see it as synchronous. On top of that, you need to understand what frequency you are going to integrate. So there are few factors which you need to assess, and then you need to suggest the perfect solution for your project. So that is what I think I am going to tell you in our episode. So where I can explain you about the integration landscape and what are all the factors you need to understand when you design an integration solution.
Awesome. And yeah, let's deep dive a little bit in integration architecture and strategy. So, how do you approach designing an enterprise integration architecture around the tool?
Yeah, see, for instance, 10 years ago, there were not much integrations. They were very simple. For instance, you have a batch job or a file drop, or it might be a nightly sync, that's it. But today's enterprise is almost a real-time event-driven or API. So it can also be because it is a cloud native. So this is where D365 F4 sits. Like it sits in the middle of the CRM system, e-commerce platforms, or the MES, the WMS. So there are many dozens of Microsoft services. So the challenge is no longer how do I connect the system A to B. The challenge is how do I build an integration ecosystem that scales with with the business. So this is the question you need to keep in mind whenever you design an integration.
Awesome. And what factors help determine whether an integration should be real time, yeah, near real time, I call it,
Huh.
or batch based?
So that depends on your scenario, Mirko. For instance, if
Hmm.
you go for a real time, I would usually suggest I would not immediately decide or give a solution to my client if it should be a real time or a asynchronous process. I will be studying what the process is about. I need to understand what is the frequency, what is the load, and whether it has to be for this load, whether it has to be a real time or near real time or asynchronous, whether I should use logic apps or the Power Automate to save the billing for my client, and whether how do I handle the failure. See, for instance, if you're not getting a your data in the end system, at least within 30 seconds, your system should be able to send you an alert. Hey, something has failed, this has gone wrong. So all this you need to understand when you design for an integration.
And can you a little bit explain? I see often the people talk about, when they talk about dynamics, it's Dataverse. It's the last months I see a lot of it, and Power Platform. Is there also topics or integration strategies for this?
Yes, it is not only FNO, Dynamics 365 FNO is not only about the database. For instance, when I design or review the integration landscape, I usually have some four pillars with me. For instance, the decoupling. For the tightly coupled integrations are the biggest source of the long-term pain. If your system depend on each other's timings or the schema or availability, you are building a fragility, right? Because
Mhm.
your system is not going to be a fragile system, right? So decoupling means you are going to use the queues. Or sorry, I am being little technical here because maybe then if you have any doubts, you can stop me at any time. So here decoupling means you are going to use the queues using the events or using the API with the versioning and avoiding the point-to-point dependencies here. Also, if you cannot answer what has happened to this message in under 30 seconds, you don't have an observability. So observability is also one of the pay point you need to make a note. So logs are not observable. In my case, I would say log. A log is not an observability. So what is observability means? It is tracing, correlation IDs, maybe a dashboard you can build where you can capture the failures or an alert or a replay capability. And the next third one I usually say is the scalability. So the scalability patterns include the event-driven workflows and the asynchronous pattern. So what are event-driven workflows that maybe I can say as a business event using the service bus or the event grid. And I can suggest an asynchronous processing for a DIXF batch or the DIXF batch processing. You have various
Mhm.
APIs for DIXF batch processing. We can use that also. The last one is the resilience. Failures, I can say they are not exceptions. They are normal. See, every system tend to fail. I mean, the process what you are sending from the source system to your end system need not be successful always. So failures are not exceptions. They are normal. So the resilient integration what you are building should include a retry policy. For instance, if you are, I have implemented the Azure Service Bus, so I can use a dead letter queue for retrying my failed messages. So these are all the pillars that form the foundation of everything else.
Uh, Awesome. I think a little bit you say there are yeah, um, integration options. There are, I think, APIs,
Mhm.
OData, Graph, yeah, some data management frameworks, and I think it start all with middleware platforms. Where or how did you decide between all these options?
Ah, this is what we call as integration patterns. So what works and what doesn't, so that you need to match. So let me give you some idea on the integration patterns which is available in the D365 FNO. The recurring data jobs, for instance, what I told you as a DIXF, data import export framework. So if
Mhm.
you see the strength of DIXF, it is great for bulk export or import bulk data, and it is easy to configure. You have so many standard entities which are already available in the system, and if it is also possible to customize the entities as well. And it works well for the master data sinks. It supports BYOD as well, but the limitation here is if you want to something as a real time, DIXF is not the right choice, so it is not for the real time process. So maybe for the high frequency transactions we need to scale accordingly. And limited error handling, which means the system is not, it will throw the error, but if you want to capture it outside your system, then you need to go for the extra middleware. So this is for the DIXF. The next integration pattern I am saying about is OData. The OData, I have written so many posts about OData in my blog. Maybe we can refer it for from how to set up the OData, what are OData, how do you consume it in FNO. All this I have in detail. I have given it in my blog post. What are the strength of the OData is it is real time and it is easy to consume. And the next is it is good for the small transactional volumes, but the limitations is they will end up in throttling if you cross the limit. For instance, in FNO, if there is a more than if you send a record, if you send more than 5 6,000 records in a per minute window, it will end up in throttling. So it is not designed for the high throughputs. So this is the major limitation in OData. So whenever I do a design, I would make sure OData is not is not suggested for any high volume transactions. And the next one is the custom services, maybe a SOAP or the REST services. Like, so if you see the strength here, you have a high performance on this soap, the custom service. It is also flexible, so if you want to accommodate any new changes, it is possible. It is very flexible, and it also supports the complex logic. For instance, in OData you will not be able to handle multiple joins, but in your custom services you will be able to do multiple joins and you can accommodate the complex logic. And of course, so since it handle the complex logics, it can be optimized for any specific scenario. But the limitation is it requires development, and of course every time you need to depend on a developer. Any change, hey, you go and do this, so you will have end up with lots of versioning is there. And of course you need to think about the security. How secure is your custom service? So
Mhm.
because that comes as a part, that security is already taken care by DIXF and OData. But in case of custom services, handling security is in our bucket. And the last one is the business event. So event, what it says, it is event driven. So the strength here is event driven. And it can be like, for instance, when you post a payment, if you want to trigger something, like then business event can be used. For instance, when you are releasing a production order, so a business event can be used and it can send the data to the external system. So here it can be scalable and it can be decoupled, and it is also native integration with the Azure. But the limitation is the payloads can be limited. At times, it will not be able to handle the large payloads, and it is not available for all the entities. And coming to your point of dataverse, we call it as dual right here. So not every project would use dual, right? It
Mm.
depends on the scenario. When you are integrating your Dynamics 365 FO with the CE system or the field service, then you bring dual right into picture here. So strength here is you have a tight integration with the dataverse. It is a real-time sync, but only limitation is I feel it is complex to troubleshoot at times. Then initial setup is also challenging because when we do an initial sync, we will have no clue if that ends up in an error. So we will have to shed some time in understanding where we missed what happened. So it is not suitable for all the data models. So it is good when you have a CRM and ERP alignments, like the product or the customer sync or the order sync. In that case, it is good.
And I have for a few days, I have talked to Niklas Hayduk, and you talk about Power Pages. How did you see the role for Power Pages? Is there is this a factor for I don't know, use build portals for I don't know, for the non CRM users, so they can connect to a platform, or is there something included in Dynamics?
Yeah, we have an option to call the power. I mean, you cannot directly call this from the D365 FO, but of course, there is an option where we need to set up that power platform, the power portals in your system, and using that, we have a configuration called as Microsoft FNO application integration. I don't remember that name. So where you refer your app registration details in this, and then you will be able to call the portal setup here. But maybe this is not so much supported in this few scenarios whatever I have worked, but it is possible.
Hmm. Yeah, I a little bit topic, a little bit back from before. I read an article. It was a Salesforce article from so, but they say middleware is dead. How did you see this? Is has middleware a future?
Yes, we are working with see, they are like, that is where this magic happens, right, Miko? Because FNO you have, it is possible to communicate with the external system using the custom code from FNO. But the load, the AOS, we call it as AOS, will be taking more load during this communication, which will affect the performance in turn. So that is where the middleware comes into picture, right? They take that communication load from FNO, the AOS, and then they do all the transformation or the what do you say, the connectivity, all this. They take that load. For instance, the logic apps or the service bus or the event, even the Azure function. So they allows you to build the enterprise grade, the scalable integration patterns here, right? For instance, this event driven architecture. Let me come back to my favorite event driven architecture.
Mhm.
So FNO publishes some business event. Okay, so whenever the business event is published, I have an option to go write an extra additional code to communicate, to connect to the external system. For instance, a Salesforce, I can do it. But if I go via the Azure Event Grid or the Service Bus, then the load is on them. For instance, the FNO publishes the business event, and the Service Bus or the Event Grid receives them. So the
Mhm.
downstream system reacts here, correct? So this pattern would give you a high scalability and loose coupling, and it is almost like a near real time in this case. So I would say a middleware is always needed when you have an integration, because that reduces the load in the AOS.
And we talk about patterns. So did you, or what are some anti-patterns you see in integration design?
Anti-patterns, I would say. So without studying the process properly, you are designing an integration. For instance, we are saying, hey, my load is 10 thousand records. So what is 1,000 records? Is it per day or per hour or per month? So without understanding all these underlying rules, then we end up with what do you say, okay, then let me design the OData. This is very good. But then if the load is 1,000 records per hour, we might have a chance that we will end up in the throttling. So a proper study is must. A proper study about the process is must before designing an integration solution. So this is where I see most of the integrations fail, because without understanding all these factors, we will end up in a complex design where it is not possible to scale, where you would not have accommodated your failure handling also, where there is no retry policy also, where you don't understand about the load. Everything will become a chaos there.
Awesome. So yeah, this was awesome. Okay, let's go back more. It was really technical, but yeah, let's go to the technical part. I think, what integration tools or technologies do you use most frequently? with Dynamics 365 Financial Operations?
So in my case, I have an experience with logic apps. So I
Mhm.
usually, it depends. Like for instance, if my client is, see, for instance, logic apps is mainly used for the widely based organizations, right? So it depends. So it is when the load is less, when there is a medium sized integrations, then I would suggest for the Power Platform, Power Automate, whether this can be done. But in case when I can able to achieve something via the logic apps. For instance, I need to send the data to the Salesforce. Then I can use my logic apps, use the business event or the API, then send it via event grid, business event, Salesforce. Then whether I can use the Azure functions or not. So it is various. So mostly I try to leverage the Azure capabilities in in my project.
Awesome. And yeah, when we think, or how do you approach security and authentication for enterprise integrations?
Okay, the security. So, of course, security is one of the important topics because data is our asset, right? So, we need to, for instance, if I am using the logic apps or the OData, then I make sure I have created enough security. I mean, when you create a event grid or when you communicate with FNO from the business event or via the event grid, I make sure the app registration takes care of all the security aspects. For instance,
Mhm.
in where we'll be creating the app registration with the client secret, and then whether I will be able to limit the access to the applications which uses this particular app registration. So all these are taken care, and I also make sure that when I am designing custom services, so I need to make sure I need to educate my team. Hey, this is how you need to handle the security. For instance, whether you need to bring the key vault into picture, how do you use the key vault, whether you need to limit your access policies of the key vaults. So all this I need to gauge and then train my team accordingly.
And I don't know, but I'm more the data guy, and I see we have a lot of bottlenecks in performance. Is there also, I don't know, yeah, in the 65 FO integration, see you there are also bottlenecks, and when, how can, yeah, how can you optimize around them?
Yeah, without performance and the bottlenecks, then the project doesn't move, right? So, in the initial stage of the project, so whenever there is a rollout, so we have a large data to load, correct? We have a set of master data to load in our ERP. ERP obviously need certain data. For instance, vendor master, customer master, financial set, all this we need to load into the system. So we need to understand what is the right time to load, what batch AOS we can use. For instance, if the batch AOS server capacity is very limited, it will not be able to support your records which are in the 10,000 format. For instance, you are going to upload a file which has more than 20,000 or 50,000, then you need to make sure the batch server which you are using should be able to accommodate that particular load. Otherwise, what we usually end up, the batch will keep on executing, and what would happen, it would also block the other batches which will be waiting for the request. So it will be in it will be in a kind of a deadlock where this also will not complete and it will not allow the new batch also to execute the to pick up the new thread. So this kind of deadlock situation we have faced a lot, and then it is a kind of learning for me. Say so then I we worked with Microsoft to understand how do we load the data and how do we gauge the batch servers when we are when we are setting up the live environment for a particular legal entity.
Okay, and can you, I think a little bit, yeah, about, you don't have to say a client's name, but can you walk us through a particular challenging integration project you solved?
Yes, my project currently I am working as a multi-country rollout. So we already have 6 countries in life, and
Mhm,
whenever we have a new rollout, that too we
mhm,
have a one single AOS instance. So I think you can understand what is one instance. We have only one live system. There are
mhm,
chances where if you have multiple legal entities, there is also an option to have multiple instances. But in
mhm,
our case, we are going only with one instance. So whenever we go live, I need to make sure the integration what I have done for my previous entities, the previous rollouts, is not broken. They are not broken with the new rollout. So that I need to make sure. So whenever I make myself, when it is moved to production environment, I make sure, hey Anita, okay, these are all the ones which you, I have prepared a checklist. Okay, so these are all the checklist which you need to have a look before you go for a rollout, new rollout, before you enable the integration, because I am in charge of enabling the integration. So I go through the checklist. Hey, these are all enabled. Okay, so this enabling this should not break the existing one. So that I will make sure. And also, the next point, what I usually do is there are the inventory, so extracting the inventory on hand, where you have a, we call it as on hand inventory. So that takes most of the time in our system. So then I figured out we can handle it via add-in, so that it doesn't come directly to our FNO. It was called inventory visibility. So via inventory visibility, that add-ins will be able to extract the on hand data which doesn't impact any performance in our environment, and then it sends it to the external system via via the logic app. So this is a perfect one, which we say, I mean, I got a good appreciation from my client that this is one of the approach what I have suggested to them works well even now.
Okay, awesome. Can you also tell us a little bit how do you handle error management and monitoring in production integrations?
Huh. Yes, error management, a failure. So, of course, there comes the scalable architecture, right? So we need to design for the failure, our systems for failure. For instance, we need to assume APIs will time out, correct? We cannot think that we cannot be of under positive optimist. Being optimistic is good, but at times we need to assume APIs will time out, your messages will fail, all the systems will go offline. So your architecture should be able to absorb the failure. It should not collapse under it. That is my principle. So we need to make sure you have a backup for that. And also your system should also be designed for the change. For instance, the integrations can outlive the applications, right? So your integration, your application must support schema evolution and
Mhm.
versioning, or it can also support the new customers. For instance, I have a multi-country rollout, so how my customers, new customers, are being accustomed to this new entity. So I need to make sure. And also, as I already said, design for observability. So if you can't see it, you cannot fix it. If
Mm.
you cannot raise it, you cannot trust it. So this is the design for observability. So the observability is not about the logs. So this is only for the failure alerts. And also, to reiterate, each system should be able to operate independently. So one system should not block another. So the scale is not about the speed; it is about the elasticity. So this is what I keep in mind whenever I think about the failure handling scenarios.
Awesome. Um, and we have talked a little bit before. You have say a word or a tool I also often work with is Azure Integration Services. Can you, yeah, tell a little bit more about this tool? What role plays in your architecture decisions?
So here, you mean you are asking about the integrations, right? How
Mhm.
the sessions which I have given for the integrations, correct?
Yeah,
Or could you rephrase your question? Sorry, I didn't get you.
yeah. There's I think a tool. It's a tool. It's a service. As an Azure Integration Service.
Mhm.
Um, what role plays it for your work?
Yes, the Azure Integration Service. So I mainly work with the Logic Apps, Azure
Okay.
Data Factory, Event
Mhm.
Grid. So these are all the major tools which I use in my project every day, where it helps to it helps to do the complete my integration. For instance, in case of Logic Apps, I have taken tips from your episode also, Mirko. Like for instance, you should not leave the
Mhm.
workflow when it is in not use. We should not leave it as such, because it will add cost to the build. It will have an additional cost, correct? These are all
Mhm.
the few tips which I learn. And for instance, if I am telling my team to create some workflows, I make sure If it is not used, either you delete it or you deactivate them so that it doesn't add any additional billing. And the Azure Service Bus. So this is like, for instance, when I am sending the data from my D365 FNO to Azure Service Bus, I don't need to go via the logic apps.
Mhm.
FNO has an integration architecture. It can communicate directly. It can send the data directly to the service bus. So that also I make use of the Azure Service Bus. Event grid. I have an option to send the data via the event grid also. So in case of event grid, I follow a two-step approach. FNO is sending the data to event grid. From the event grid, Logic Apps is reading and sending the data to the end system. Whereas my integration, it it communicates with the various system, for instance Salesforce, SFTP, then the Azure SQL Server,
Mhm.
on-premises SQL Server, FTP. So the end system are various. At times the end system also becomes a source system. For instance, I am getting the data from EDA system where they will be dropping the file in one SFTP. I need to read and then send the data to my FNO. So it depends. So in this case, most of my work is based on the logic apps, Azure Service Bus, and the event grid, mostly on the event driven patterns.
Mhm. And I think so. It's an enterprise solution, and a lot of companies will this use over years. So I think in the long term, how is your strategy or best practice for versioning and maintaining? Yeah, with.
So yeah, understood. So yes, it is an ERP, enterprise resource planning, right? So D365 integrations, they are, if I say, they are no longer just technical connectors, like they are the strategic enablers for modern enterprise architecture. So if you embrace event-driven patterns, decoupled design, strong observability, then scalable cloud services, and the resilient architecture, you will be able to build an integration landscape that not only works today, but it grows with your business for the years to come.
Mm, okay. And yeah, what advice would you give developers trying to build a scalable integration from day one?
Yes. So there are few tips for the developers. So maybe I am going more into a technical. You should
Hmm.
understand how the X plus, we call it as X plus plus. Our language is X plus plus in D365 FNO, not C plus plus, it is X plus plus. So you need to make sure you understand when to use where loop and when to use an insert. For instance, a while loop will will have multiple calls to the database, right? So you need to understand this would take more of the time. So whether you need to use an insert or the insert record set, or how do you update, and there are certain development guidelines given in our Microsoft documentation. So I usually tell that my developers to go through the Microsoft guidelines, get the basics of it, because if they follow that, they will be able to deliver the quality code. So that is what I usually suggest. On top of that, we also have our, every client has their own guidelines based on the models. We call it as models. We have models in FNO. So how to create a model, what are the naming conventions for the model, all this we have a specific guideline for each client. So we will need to train the developers on how to follow these guidelines to achieve a quality and the performance apt code.
Okay. Let us look a little bit more in the career and community stuff. So I think the people can read the guidelines or Microsoft Learn, and they can read your blog. Uh, so um, for or what are tips to are you can give to become an expert in D365 FO, and yeah, where should you start and see you different expert roles?
Practice every day. That is my simple tip. So you don't need to have any extra blog, extra content in any of your when you want to become an expert. For instance, how I started. In our FNO, we have this development environment where you have tables, classes, data views, whatever you want to learn. You can go to that particular class, the standard class, and understand how they have designed that particular code. You can read it and practice it by yourself. So, or you can open a form. You can open a form in the front end, you can understand what that form does, then you can go to the back end of the form and then assess how this form is being transformed to code. So how this code and this form UI is in sync, so that we can do. And on top of it, it is not only now, with the development is not the only one which is going to help you in your career. We also need to what do you say, with the AI Copilot and with the Microsoft 360, because we need to have this real world AI adoption, right? So we need to have that also into the in our career. So that is how I advise my team or my juniors to start when they start their career, and I advise like that.
Okay, and you are an integration architect. So what separates a good integration developer from a great integration architect? What skills?
See, integration, see, if you are a developer, now the pattern is you should know, you should have the exposure on the integration as well. So it is not that you are only your bubble, you should not be in a bubble of the technical world. Hey, I know only X plus plus code. No. You should come out of that bubble and then give the exposure, get the exposure to the integration. So when I say, when me being an architect, I should be able to guide both the teams, my developer team, my development team, and the middleware team. Hey, this is how you need to get the work done. So this is the API you need to create, and this is how you need to design this in the middleware. So this is where we need to. If you want to become a technical architect, from a developer to technical architect, you should not only be in the X plus plus. You should also come out of the technical bubble and learn about this integration landscape.
Yeah, and we have at the start we talk about AI. How is AI being to influence the integration development in Microsoft ecosystems from your perspective?
Yes, as I said earlier, like my the this one, I have this journey. My significant, it's like I can say it's kind of it is a milestone for me. Like I have completed this AB 900, that AA fundamentals, and AB 731. It's for the Microsoft Copilot. So it it gave me an idea. I mean, it strengthened my foundation in the responsible AI and the Copilot extensibility, and how this enterprise grade AA governance is working. So it shaped my how I approach the solution design, ensuring that every AA capability I build or recommend is secure. So such certifications will give you an idea how to then scale. I mean, how to secure, scale the and align the business value. So certification is one of the one which is must for us.
Mhm.
And also I work extensively with the D365 for Copilot and the Copilot Studio. So this would help my team to understand how to integrate this generative AI into their everyday workflows. See, for instance, they have their daily workflows. How do you automate it? How do you unlock the new productivity power? So with that, I will be able to guide them. So this AI certifications help me a lot.
Mm. And can you more specific, or do you see corporate as a yeah? How did they change the role, your role as architect?
Yes, for instance, from a technical perspective, I could say I have automated with, for instance, I need to create some, of course, the one of the pain point of a developer is creating a TDD, a technical the technical development document. So whatever you have returned the code, it has to be as a document also. So we have a tool where it reads my code and it will create a TDD for me. So that saves my time. And also we have a tool where it can create the what do you say, the comments, where we have some XML documentation, so that can be automatically generated. So from the technical perspective, I can say it has reduced my mundane work to the greater extent, so where I can focus on my quality work, so where I can give my energy to ex to to experiment more of my technical challenges.
And what emerging technologies or patterns are you most exciting about when we look a little bit in the future or today?
Every day this AI is evolving, so we need to keep ourselves updated with that. So, for instance, now we recently have this co-work, right? So that is the hot topic now. So how it is integrated with the D365 FNO is the next topic which I need to check. So maybe then I can share my blog with you, Mirko. Then maybe we can then discuss in the next one.
Yeah, you're every time welcome again. So let's start the rapid fire round. So I have some questions.
Hmm.
Your favorite integration tool?
Logic apps.
Okay. Rest or soap?
Rest.
Most underrated D365 FO feature?
The technical part.
One integration with that needs to die.
Integration should never die.
What's your best debugging tip?
Debugging. Yes, me being a developer, debugging is our right and left hand for us. So without debugging, we will never be able to do. So you make sure the code is compiled error free before you start your debugging.
And one Azure service you could live without.
Sorry, could you repeat it?
One Azure service you couldn't live without.
My alerts, which I have configured in my system.
And what is the most important soft skill for an architect?
The soft skill. So I need to be aligned with everyone. So be it a personal or the professional, I need to be aligned. I need to be reachable for everybody. So that is one of the soft skill.
Okay, cool. And now, yeah, I have looked a little bit about what people write about or in the D65 FO communities. And I have some, yeah, hot takes, and you can say, what did you think? So the first is today's conversion was a reminder that integrations are no longer just technical plumbing; they are strategic business infrastructure. Building scalable and secure architecture around D65 FO is becoming more critical than ever.
Yes, absolutely. Because we need to build the integration which scales and that should be designed for resilient observability and for the future growth.
The Microsoft ecosystem keeps evolving rapidly with Azure, Power Platform, AI, Dataverse, and all influencing integration strategy. Staying adaptable is now part of the job description.
Yes.
Cool. What stood out most is how enterprise integrations require balancing performance, security, scalable, and business value simultaneously. And that's where the real experience shows.
See, that is what. So your architecture must support the schema evolution, your versioning, and the new customers, and also the new business process. So your application, what you are building, should be designed for accommodating the change.
Awesome. And um, if you're working in Dynamics 365 financial operations integrations, knowledge is becoming one of the most valuable technical skill set. Can you develop it for the future?
Yes, because of course, the once we share our knowledge, be it via the GitHub or via the blog or via the newsletter, we are sharing the knowledge and we are also understanding what is happening in the other. I mean, when I read others blog also, I am learning. When I
Mhm.
am sharing with others, they are learning it from me. So it is just knowledge is sharing and growing together.
Awesome. So thank you for your time, and I will give the last words to my audience from you. So feel free.
Sure. And thank you for listening. And I hope this conversation helps you to design the integrations that are not functional but truly future ready. So that is the tips you should always keep it in mind.
Yeah, so then I say thank you for this technical deep dive.
Too
This
much
was
technical, yes.
was awesome, and I think there was a lot of insights for the audience. And so I say thank you, and yeah, goodbye.
Thank you, Mirko. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.